In this video, we'll be understanding variables and scope. What happens when you declare a variable as var versus let versus const? So what we have is a HTML file that's linked to an external JavaScript file, and it's only got a h2, which is pretty much this heading. And the JavaScript file is got three functions that don't have content, and we also have called these functions to show what they display. So let's have a look. Let's do the demo for the variable first. We need for var, sorry. When you declare a variable as var, it will have its function scoped. So that means it's accessible in the function. So let's show how that works. So I'm going to create a statement, an if statement. And then I'm going to be declaring the variable inside the if statement, and then just to see what we mean by function scoped. Now, if you notice, I said if true. Now, the statement here, if true, is a conditional statement that always evaluates to true, meaning the block of code inside the if statement will always be executed. And for the demo of this video, that's what we want. So I'm going to declare a variable as var, and the variable is called message. I'm going to assign to it the string var inside, inside an if statement. And then I am going to send the content of that variable to the console. So I'll say var plus message. Actually, I could just display it like this. I guess that should also be all right. So I'm going to save and refresh. However, we don't see the results in the browser. That's because I'm sending the content to the console. So to view the console, and this might be a little bit different depending on what browser you have, but the steps is pretty much similar in other browsers. So this is Firefox. I'm going to right click on the page and click on inspect. Then I'm going to click on console. And here we can see var inside an if statement. So what happens, can I actually access this from outside of the if statement? Let's give this a shot. And yes, we can. So although the variable has been declared within the if statement, but we were still able to access it from outside of the if statement, that's because this variable has a scope of a function. Now I'm going to copy all of this and paste it in let so that we can compare how this works. Now, for let, this is actually block scoped, meaning that it's a variable defined as let is accessible only within the block it was defined in. So let's do that. Let's first have a look at what is printed when we call it from the same block. So here it's working exactly the same. But what happens if I try to access message from outside of the if statement? Then here I'm getting a reference error. That message is not defined. So let's put a comment here that this does not work. So we know that this is block scoped. Now here I mentioned this is function scoped, but let's have a look at what happens if we try to access this from outside of the function. So here that also throws a reference error that's saying message is not defined at line 11. So we're quite consistent here. Now I'm gonna put the same comment here and comment it out. So now the program works perfectly fine. Now the const, defining some variable as const pretty much works similar to let, but there's more restriction. You can't reassign the value. Once you declare it, you can't change it. So it's pretty much a constant value. So let's give this a try. I'm going to copy the content and paste it, and I'll change that to const. And the message also changes to const. So let's save and refresh. Now here we can see the result is coming up normally. But what happens if we try to access this from outside of the if statement? Here we get a reference error because it's similar to let. This is block scoped. So let's comment this out because this does not work. My other point is, what does it mean that it cannot be reassigned? So if we do something like this for a constant, I might just zoom out a little bit to constant. I'm giving this a new value. So let's just do new value, save and refresh. Now that's when we get a problem. It's a type error, says invalid assignment to const. So that's not going to work as well because you can't reassign a value. Once you give it a value, it's fixed. But obviously we can do that. We can still update the value here for the let. It should work. That should work. So that's that part here, we get a new value. Does work. And obviously also it works with the variable scope, the var scope. Now, which one to use? Using declaring something as var is sort of an older way of declaring variables. It's also less secure. It's a less secure way to declare variables. So using let and const are sort of the modern ways of declaring variables and also safer alternatives. So use let when you will change, when you know that the value of the variable can change, use let, but when it won't change, then you can use const. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.